Flint Cole writes, do you think it is annoying when actors are in too many recent movies? I get annoyed when I see Sam Jackson show up everywhere.
It's funny, we were just kind of talking about Kevin Hart. Because this will be the third, this Think Like a Man 2 will be the third starring role this year, and it's only February, for Kevin Hart. It can, only if they're playing the same kind of character over and over again. And that's why I said in the thing, at some point I'm going to get tired of Kevin Hart. I ain't there yet. Right now I'm still really entertained by Kevin Hart in movies. But if he keeps doing lots of movies and he's always the same guy, at some point I'm probably going to get bored and annoyed with that. Now, on the flip side of that, you can get a Liam Neeson to be in 5 movies in 1 year. And, you know, as long as he's playing different types of characters, they can all be badass characters. But when you look at things like Taken or what was the one where he's fighting the wolves again? Gray, whatever. He's a badass in both, but they're two very different badasses. Then I can watch him in 5, 6, 7 movies in a year. It really depends on the performer and how diverse those roles are to me. And then you get a guy like Daniel Day-Lewis who does like 1 movie every 3 years and wins the Academy Award. If that, yeah. He likes cobbling his shoes. Anyway.
It's less annoying for me and just more funny. I just like look at it and go, oh, look, he's in this many movies or she's in this many movies. What I don't like, though, is the people who start hating on actors or actresses because they're in too many movies, or they get too popular. Like there's like a backlash on Anne Hathaway. There's a backlash starting with Jennifer Lawrence, and I just find it very frustrating. It's like you don't like them because they're in too many movies and they're getting too popular.
So basically, you don't like them because they're good.
Yeah.
Because they're good enough to keep getting roles and blah, blah, blah.
I hate that mentality.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Billy Costa writes, favorite dark comedy? Mine is The Cable Guy.
Favorite dark comedy? Oh gosh, now I got to think about that. What in my head would be considered a dark comedy? You know what? I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'd have to make a list. Can you think of something off the top of your head?
I don't know if it's my favorite, but the one that comes to mind is Scorsese's King of Comedy with Robert De Niro. It's pretty hilarious, but also dark. I mean, even Wolf of Wall Street I consider kind of a dark comedy. So, like, Peter Berg, I think, this isn't one of my favorites, but this is an example of a dark comedy. Peter Berg did that movie, what was it? It was set in Vegas where they accidentally kill a stripper.
Oh, I know, yeah. And I think, it isn't Christian Slater in that one?
Yeah, and Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of it, though.
That's not my favorite. I'm just saying that's an example of it.
That's an example of dark. Yeah, I'd have to make a list. I can't think of it off the top of my head. All right, what's next?
Jonathan Rivera writes, what casting choices have you disagreed with but actually was a good choice?
Wow, casting decisions I disagreed with. At first, as much as I'm not a fan of the original 2 Fantastic Four movies, I didn't like the Chris Evans casting as Johnny Storm at first. But I gotta tell you that's one of the things I actually thought was pretty okay about the Fantastic Four movies, was Chris Evans as both of those. And then oddly enough, I was really completely pro Chris Evans being cast as Captain America. Some other ones that I really didn't like that I ended up liking. I don't know. Let me think on that for a second. What about you, Dennis?
For me, speaking of Anne Hathaway, was even though I really love Anne Hathaway, Catwoman.
I hated that casting at first.
I was like, oh man, that's. Even though I love her, I was like, she doesn't seem like Catwoman. Then she killed it, and she was probably one of my favorite parts of the entire movie.
Which is a great example of, okay, just don't underestimate talent, because I didn't see Anne Hathaway as a fit for Catwoman. I'll totally admit that. I won't change history. I did not like it at first, and you're right. I think she ended up being like one of the best parts about that entire film, and I'm sure it happens a lot.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
I love this idea. Rashad H. writes, do you think Angelina Jolie will ever be in a Marvel or DC movie? I think she would be a great Catwoman in the Batman reboot.
It depends on how soon they do it. Like Angelina Jolie right now, she's really caught in the filmmaking bug. She really likes making films now as opposed to just acting in them. You know what? No, I don't think we'll ever see her in a Marvel or a DC universe. What do you think?
I think there's a slight possibility, but yeah, she's more interested in directing and activism, and the type of stories that she wants to tell or be in don't seem to be mainstream right now, at least for the moment. Maybe she'll change her mind later down.
Yeah, now some people might say she's too old for it, but she's only, I think she just turned 40. If not, she might even just be 39. So she's got some comic book viable years left in her. I just don't know. All right, what's next?
Tarek writes, I heard there was going to be a Scream TV show. What do you guys think would be better, a Scream TV series or a Scream 5?
I don't like to address TV questions much at all. And I don't think we're going to see a Scream 5. I think there was some talk about it, but I think it got derailed, unless you've heard something different.
No, but I didn't really like the last Scream movie.
I didn't like any of them after the first one.
Oh, really? I liked
Yeah.
the first, second, and third one. But the fourth one was the latest one, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't care for it, and I don't think it did very well.
Yeah, no,
So
it didn't. There's not a demand for it.
So I don't see either one happening.
Right. All right, what's next?
Cody writes, AMC, is Texas Chainsaw 4, oddly named, still moving ahead?
I haven't heard anything. I remember there was some talk about it a while ago, and they said they wanted to do it. But off the top of my head, I have not heard anything else about any progress on it whatsoever. I don't know that it's been shelved, but as far as I know, there's been no progress. I could be wrong about that. If you know something different, write in the chat board. Dennis, have you heard anything different?
No, I haven't. I
right.
don't really follow horror too much.
What's next?
Kobe writes, will there be a remake of Titanic in the future, and do you think that we will see any movies set on the Titanic?
Yeah, we will at some point in the future. I mean, Titanic is it's not just a huge blockbuster movie. It's a real historical event. And those movies tend to get remade anyway. And, you know, it's the biggest blockbuster of all time. At some point in the future, just don't hold your breath. You know, don't expect one within the next 10 years or so. But eventually, at some point down the road, there's going to be another Titanic movie, unless you think otherwise.
Second biggest blockbuster of all time, next to Avatar.
Did Avatar pass it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew they were 1 and 2, but
Yeah, James Cameron just can't hit lightning twice.
you know what the funny thing is about those two? Only one of them, when you figure in inflation, only one of those two movies are even in the top 10 all time.
Compared to like Gone with the Wind. I
Gone
think
with the Wind, Star
Yeah.
Wars, things like that. But yeah, for just pure dollar value, they're 1 and 2.
I don't see them remaking it anytime soon.
No.
Probably like 20 years.
Maybe
from now.
20, yeah. All right, what's next?
Raymond writes, with the launch of comic book movies in recent years, do you think we will see a live-action Sailor Moon film?
Oh yeah, we talked about it the other day, actually. I have heard there is some talking about a Sailor film. Don't run with anything. John Campy of AMC says there's a Sailor Moon movie coming. No. But I know there are some people talking about it. I would not be surprised, because now it's old enough. Here's the neat thing about Sailor Moon, all right? Sailor Moon is kind of right now, where the first Transformers movie was. It's at an age where it's in a real sweet spot, where it's not so old that there aren't still followers of it, but it's just old enough that for a lot of people, it's a nostalgia thing. And like the first Transformers movie, I think came in that exact sweet spot where it still had some fans, but there are fans who are like in my age bracket who was an amazing, wonderful nostalgia factor all at the same time, and it was able to capitalize on both. I think Sailor Moon may be in that demographic. If I had to put money on it, I'd say no. We're not going to see a live-action Sailor Moon, but I wouldn't put a lot of money on that because I do think the possibility exists.
I don't think we're going to see it because it's no longer in its peak. And then with the nostalgia thing, I think that type of property, especially like for women, it's different. You know, men, we like to cling on to like our old childhood stuff, especially stuff like Transformers and G.I. Joe and whatnot. Girls, they kind of cling on to, I see a lot of my friends from college, they still are into like NSYNC and Backstreet, but you know what I mean? They cling on to type of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Sex and the City. I don't know if Sailor Moon is one of those things that they really cling on to.
You know that one scene for those of you who have seen the Lego movie, there's that one scene where Emmett says to Vitruvius, he says, but, you know, it's not going to explode if I do it, right? And then there's just awkward silence, and then Vitruvius is like, sure, yeah, whatever. Talking about NSYNC, whatever, it's like, Anne is a total Justin Timberlake freak. She's got a newspaper picture of her with Justin Timberlake back in the NSYNC days, and she's still a massive fan of him now. It's gone to like 3 of his concerts in the last little while. I'm like, it's totally cool you love Justin Timberlake, but you wouldn't leave him for me, right? Sure, yeah, let's go with that.
My ex-girlfriend, who is also Filipino, is also obsessed with Justin Timberlake.
There's a thing.
And when remember after the, I think 2008 election, you and me and I think Ryan McGuffey. We went to that
the
one
woods.
bar.
We went to the woods right by my
Justin
place.
Timberlake and Jessica Biel
were there.
I texted my ex-girlfriend, and she freaked out.
Yeah.
She freaked out. Just the fact that I was in the same vicinity.
All right, they love Justin Timberlake. I know you do too, Ashley. Don't lie. You do too.
No, I actually was a Lance Bass fan, and now considering the information that we have now about Lance Bass, I'm kind of embarrassed. But Gareth Lewis writes, question, what effect will the new marketing laws have on a post-credit scenes?
If by marketing laws you're referring to the new standards that NATO, not the military defense organization, but the National Association of Theater Owners, NATO, they've put out some new guideline rules about trailers. Trailers can't be more than 2 minutes long. They can't start playing in a theater more than 6 months before the movie opens, things like that. But these are guidelines for NATO theaters. These aren't laws. All right, and every studio is allowed to have 2 exceptions every year. So two of, say, Warner Brothers can have 2 movies a year that they can have a longer than a 2-minute trailer, and they can start putting in theaters more than 6 months in advance. But this doesn't affect anything about online. Nothing. This is only in theater. So if Warner Brothers wants to put together a 7-minute trailer for the new Batman that opens in 4 years, and they want to start putting that online now, they can. If they want to bring a 25-minute clip of a new movie that's opening up next year, like 15 months from now, and they want to bring a 30-minute clip to Comic-Con, they can. These new guidelines are only about stuff that is in theater. They have no bearing whatsoever on online or stuff they play at functions like Comic-Con. Have you heard anything different?
No, did he say something about post-credits as well?
Oh yeah, and post-credit scenes. It has no effect. Yeah. No effect on post-credit scene because that's part of the movie itself. Yeah. So no effect. All right, let's take 2 more.
Okay. Oliver Queen writes, do you think that we'll see a Prometheus sequel?
I honestly, I don't think so. I did not. I'm one of the guys, so I'll come right out and say it. At first I was like, oh no, it's not bad, but I've watched it 2 or 3 times now. Prometheus is a bad film. It's not a good film. And it was so wildly inconsistent and so many plot holes and so many whatever. It's just not a good film. The people did not respond to it great. It didn't quite do the financial numbers they were kind of hoping it would do. They've talked about doing another one. Then they lost the writer. Then, this happened. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think we have a better chance of seeing another Aliens movie before we see a Prometheus sequel. That's just my feeling. I think this guy has a slightly different opinion than I do. So what do you think?
I like the first Prometheus. If they make a sequel, yes, it did have flaws in it. I think down the line we will. I think down the line Ridley Scott will revisit it.
If anybody's going to let Ridley Scott, because he's not on a good roll right now.
Not with the counselor.
Not with the counselor. All right, last question.
Jonathan Rivera writes, AMC, what's happening?
Is that the question? Not much.
That's half of it.
Gonna go watch some hockey a little bit. Okay, sorry. I'll let you continue.
Can you ever see any potential Batman villain spin-off solo films?
We've talked about this before. No, not unless they're gonna go the dark hero route. Like if they're gonna make Bane turn into like an anti-hero or something like that. And I don't see them doing that. So no, I don't.
Let's get their heroes right first.
Yeah, let's start with stage 1.
Let's start with the heroes. Let's start with JLA. I mean, we don't need to get so far ahead of ourselves, especially with Warner Brothers and DC. They're taking super baby steps. So villains, no.
All right.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to AMC Movie News on YouTube. It's free and a great way to stay updated with all the latest movie news and check out our daily show, AMC Movie Talk. Also, don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Twitter to stay in the loop for our special prizes, giveaways, and contests.